Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. It may interest you to know. I'm Toni Marcolini, and today I'm joined by a multi-Emmy Award winning actor, singer. He can do almost anything to entertain you. Kevin Spirtas. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, Toni. How are you?
Good. I wanted to start you back from the beginning, as I do most of the interviews. So it's so easy to jump into the later stuff when you're interviewing somebody. And I like to go back and say, let's take a peek at the earlier years. Right. So I know you did some Broadway. I think you were Hugh Jackman's understudy, correct?
Standby.
Standby. Okay.
There's a difference. For those of you who don't know, an understudy is someone who is on stage with the star. So if you and I were in a show together, we would be on stage doing our, smaller roles while the star was doing his role. And then to understudy him would mean that I would cover his role, but I'd still have a role on stage. A standby is someone who's off stage.
Got it.
Who doesn't have a role.
But ready to go, ready to step into Hugh Jackman's shoes at any moment.
Yeah, which I never did. But I did step into other people's shoes, which gave me the opportunity to work opposite him, which was great.
Right.
He's an amazing, amazing person.
And so that was, I think, was that the kind of the origin story for you? I mean, isn't that the first thing of notoriety, that you kind of step into?
The Boy from Oz?
Yes.
Let's take it back a little further. Well, notoriety or just success as a working actor. There may be two. A little notoriety that I did get from The Boy from Oz is that I was the guy that was standing by for Hugh Jackman. That was a pretty cool thing. Like, I'm the
That
it
is
guy.
A cool thing.
I'm the it guy until I wasn't the it guy, and that was that. When I was 18, I dropped out of school. I was going to Southern Methodist University in Dallas, and I felt that my life was being wasted in school, and my talent was not being appreciated. And you got to play by the game. You're a freshman, so the sophomores and the juniors and the seniors are all going to get their jobs, the parts and the roles. And I was miserable at school, and I left school, as I said, against my parents' wishes. And I went to New York. And 3 months later, I had heard about an audition for a chorus line, which was my favorite show of all time at that time. And I was just, how do I get into that call? I mean, who's going to see me? And my friend just simply said, why don't you go to the stage door, knock on it, and say, here's my resume. And I did. I said something like, my name is Kevin Blair. I was going by Kevin Blair at the time. And I'm not equity, but if you think I might be right for one of the roles, please call me in. And a week later, I was on stage at the Schubert Theater, being taught the audition, and that was my first huge success break.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, of course, the chorus line is it stood the test of time, right? It's been around for decades and decades, and that's some way to break into the business. Out of curiosity, did your folks come see you?
Yes, my folks saw me several times. They came up to Toronto. My dad had some business up there. And then, I can't remember. We're from St. Louis, so I think Cincinnati or somewhere around there was a tour stop. And then I played St. Louis at the Muni Opera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. And I mean, you vindicated yourself, right?
I guess that could be... I proved to myself. Is that
you
the
proved
same?
Yourself. Yeah. Now, television, I mean, because you've done an enormous amount of stage work, which I think we're going to even circle back to. But I mean, I guess in terms of television, the big moment for you is Days of Our Lives, right? When you first started.
Yeah, there was a bigger moment when I was younger called Rituals. And Rituals was a first-time syndicated soap opera that was actually going to be shown during the day and shown during the evening. So it's
Oh,
wherever your provider was going to show it, that's how they were going to do it. And it ran a year, and that was it. And boy, oh boy, I was the most worked and most needed on that show storyline wise. And then it went. So I had some in between time. And then, yes, there was some zigzagging. I did 3 or 4 slasher film sequels, which is why I'm the king of slasher film sequels. Don't try that at home. It's a professional doing it. And then I was out. I had no work, and Days of Our Lives came along and sort of saved me.
auditioning for Days of Our Lives. That had to be like a big moment, I would think. I mean, at the time, I mean, even now, still, I mean, a very popular soap.
Auditioning for Days of Our Lives was very simple this time. I was at a play in LA, seeing a friend of mine, and I come out of the theater, and some person pinches my butt.
Oh.
And it was Fran Baskin, the casting director. And she was a friend of mine. She loved theater. She'd see me at theaters, and she was always so supportive of me. She'd come and see my cabaret acts, or she'd come and see a play I was in, and Kevin, you were lovely. And I go, thank you, bye. And I'm watching my friend come out the stage door, and she walks by, and I go, Fran. She goes, Kevin, call me tomorrow. I called her, and I said, what can I do for you? And she says, well, can you come in? I want to talk to you about a role. And this was the Craig Wesley role, Dr. Craig Wesley. And it was a 2-day role. That's what I remember. She says, it's just 2 days, but you can do that, right? And I said, Fran, will they pay me? And she was just a doll. And she said, well, I want you to do it. And none of us had any idea that they were going to fall in love with me that day on the set. The week later, I went to the set. I did the scenes with Mike and Carrie, Chrissy and Rourke. And I just pretended I was on a movie set. I can't explain it. I wanted it to be marked with a very indelible stamp. I wanted it, and I thought, I'm just gonna pretend this is my set that I come to every day, do my props. I didn't so I also didn't want it to be I didn't want to interfere with anybody else's time with the producer. And he kept coming to the floor and talking to some people about, you should do this a little differently, and he'd go back into the booth. So I get home that night, and the phone rings, and it's probably about 10:30. Hello, Kevin, it's Fran. What did you do on the set today? And I'm like,
not a good call, not a good sound.
I said, I hope I did my job. And she goes, oh my God, Kevin, I just got off the phone with the producer, and he just, where did I get you? Where did I find you? He fell in love with everything you did. It was like it was your own 1-act show up there, and you didn't work. I'm like, and I mean, he really sort of complimented everything that I had intended to just be and do, which I think is it's a headset. It's a mindset that you set your intention, and you create within that framework, or you outside that framework, and then you get in or you get out. And I just said, Fran, thank you for relaying that information to me. And she said, go back and do the same thing tomorrow. I'll try my best. That was it. And then 7 months
history. You wound up, taking that part.
7 months later, 8 months later, I think. And Fran calls me up and says, Kevin, they want to offer you 3 years. I mean, she was always this excitable energy. I said, they're offering me a 3-year contract for what? The role that I did? She goes, oh, yes. That was history. That was amazing.
And how was it? What was it like to be faced with that sudden notoriety for certain that comes from a soap role, right? Because while theater is, some might argue, probably the most purest form, right, of acting or performing that you could possibly do, television often gives you a level of notoriety because people feel
You're
like
in
you
their,
can their home.
you're right in the living room. You're sitting at the table with them.
Right. So, I mean, and soaps in particular, they have some really intense fan base, right?
Well, the, sadly, they have not figured out a way to keep snowballing the shows because we're a dying breed. I hate to say that, which is sort of why other things got developed and other things got looked at. I was so thankful. I was so grateful to be working at that time. I mean, I was doing every odd job in the world. I was a waiter, I was a painter, I was a personal assistant, I was a house cleaner. I did everything. I did everything. And it wasn't a bad thing. It kept me on schedule and it kept me disciplined. But there is a very large muscle that needs to be worked out moment to moment, because you can lose your faith or you can reclaim it every time the noise comes up or the bad thoughts. And I was not working, and this was really, really probably the worst time of my life with work related in the business. But I felt I was going to have to give up, and that call came in just in the nick of time.
Yeah, that's Cinderella's story, right? You hear that sometimes, that when your back is against the wall, or at the very last moment before you're about to turn and give up, suddenly that rescue moment happens.
The night is always darkest before the light.
That's right. That's right. So you get the call, and now you thrust into the world of the soap operas, and you certainly acting with regularity then, but you're starting to get recognized too. I would think everywhere you go.
That was a trip. That was a trip, and like I'd be on an airplane, just minding my own business, and I started to learn. I started to learn what the look was that people were recognizing. There's a different look, because people will walk by and go, they keep walking. And then there's.
Yeah.
And I do that too. I never forget a face. I never forget a face. I may forget your name. I may forget what I told you, but I will never forget a face. And and I think that's also a muscle, and learning how to memorize, learning how to pull your thoughts together, your work and your craft. And it's just another thing of identification of how we're going to remember, like, there was 2 boxes over there. There was one set piece over here. There was, the motorcycle's on that side, whatever it is you're trying to get around, it's always going. And I just remember I had to do it. So I had to learn everything, and then I had to let it go. That's the thing about theater versus soaps. Theater, you memorize everything on that script, page numbers and indents, and where's that comma in that line, Kevin? Oh, it's here. Yeah, don't rewrite it. That's theater. Days, soap. Okay, Nancy, I love you. Paper's gone. Next. Bring on the next scene.
Well, also, was there some ad-libbing on Days, right? Did you get any opportunities to kind of create as you went?
I think they never gave you the go-ahead to ad-lib something. If you wanted to change something, you had to really kind of go upstairs to the producer's office and say, I would like to request you look at this line. And I don't know why it happens this way. It only happens in the soaps, but some of the soap writers they write like we don't talk. Humans talk a certain way. And Toni, if I was to talk to you every 2 seconds and say your name, Toni, I would really think that, anyone named Toni would get annoyed, because Toni, you know what I mean? Toni, and every line is just, Nancy, I'm not going to do that with you today. I told you, Nancy. Yeah, it's like, serve it up. So that writing would be requested to change. If something jogged your head, you're foggy one morning, I would very cleverly try to get myself out of the problem. Not always successfully. All right, we're gonna go back and tape it, but you like, oh, it was Dracula, not the vampire. That's the difference. But I think, again, my ability to know what I was talking about, know the lines, know what I wanted to get out of the scene, I could usually pick them up. And because I didn't have to retain them, just throw them away. So that's like one scene, gone. Next scene, gone. And that's the trick. Back to Boy from Oz. My second day there, because I came into the show later, they had already rehearsed it. They were getting ready to do previews and tech. But I was at lunch, and Patrick Vaccarella, the musical director, says, "So you're going on, right?" I went, "What?" "Oh yeah. Every time I do a show, the big star falls out." He named like a list of stars. It's during previews. They're like, "Gotta get it right." They fall out. He said he'll miss a show or two. I went home and I put that script in my head. I didn't care if it was word perfect. I just wanted to make sure I had every lyric and every line written, in my head. And I learned it in 2 days. And Hugh Jackman, God love him, never missed a show.
Yeah, well, they taught you thing about preparedness, right?
Next time I do a show as a standby, I will make sure COVID is out and about. No, that's what you miss from Music Man, But
so now you take your Days of Our Lives role and you kind of mix it up with Friends a little bit, right?
Well, I did, but they did. Yeah, they did. They were smart to do that. They were very smart.
When Dr. Drake, Joey plays that Dr. Drake with
Rumore, Dr. Drake Rumore.
Yeah. So did you get a chance to be in any of those episodes?
I was in the just the day that and this is very fun to remember, is they had an early call for me on the set of Days, and Ken Corday had left a message for me, I guess, the night before. Well, I got in from a late night casting of acting. It was a big, big holiday party, so everyone was there, and that takes forever. And I guess I got home around 12:30, 1 o'clock, and I was not going to call Ken Corday at 12:30. I'm not on that personal level with him. So I had to get up at 6, go to the set, come back. And sure enough, we are now on the set, and I hear, "All right, take 5. Kevin Spirtas, can you please go to Friends' dressing room and use the phone?" "What?" And the stage manager came up and said, "Just tell him you overslept. Tell him whatever." I didn't even know I was going to talk about Fran. But this is our stage manager, Fran, not Fran Bascom. And she said, "Just make it go easy. It'll be fine." I get on the phone. He goes, "So you didn't call me back last night?" I said, "Ken, it was 12:30. You want me to wake you up?" "No, you're right. Don't call me back. You want the good news or the great news?" "Can I have the good news?" "Yeah, there's a part on Friends, and they want to ask you to come in and do your part, Dr. Craig Wesley." I was like, "Okay." He says, "Is that a yes?" I remember he kept like confirming in the conversation, and he was ready to get off the mic. I said, wait, what's the great news?" "Oh, we're gonna have a baby." So he and Sherry were pregnant. It was great. And a friend of mine directed the show, Michael Lembeck, and
Oh, I love Michael Lembeck from One Day at a Time, right?
yeah, I'm very good friends with his son and his ex-wife, and he was just like, "Hey, we're gonna have a great time. See you out there." And I usually have the posters of what was on that wall. I don't remember her name. Maybe you can look it up afterwards. But remember the couple on the show, the 2 lesbians had
Oh yeah,
broken
the
up.
Ross's first wife.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think she meets up with
Oh yeah, then Chandler's girlfriend.
Chandler, yeah. And so they get together or something. But when they were on the set all those days, they would bring, I can't remember her name. She would bring her daughter and her son, or one of the kids, and they would color. And they were being given an opportunity to do some learning time. So my biggest theme and my biggest focus of an intention during my days on a job or days on another vacation is to be my true self. It's very hard. And just growing up and being closeted and finally coming out and then not caring about coming out, it's a whole different mindset. So I remember there was it said, be who you are in 4 different colors: blue, red, purple, and yellow. I looked at these and I said, who made these? And they said, the girl's son. I tracked her down and she said, we'll make new ones, take them. So I framed them. They were on here and I'm getting ready to take this wall down. It's not my house, but there's some stuff that has to be done. So it's being cleared off. So they're over there. Be who you are. Now find her name out and put it like on a little. I can't remember her name.
I
But
will.
that was my gift. That was my gift. That was my
I don't
gift.
remember, and I don't remember her actual name, but I know exactly who you mean.
Yeah.
So now you wind up on Friends for all intent and purposes, right?
Yeah, and worked with Matt
playing your fictional character
against Matt LeBlanc's fictional character, Dr. Draper Moray. And they did this. Michael Lembeck really wanted us to go for it, and I remember Ken Corday not quite caring for the way we delivered some of those lines, because hold it right there, Wesley. One more. We did all that joke soap stuff, but we had fun. And I'll run into Matt once in a while and I go, hey, I don't know if you remember. Oh yeah, you're the guy who made me laugh all the time saying my name. One more.
That's how you're known. Yeah, well, that had to be pretty exciting. Somewhat at the height of Friends' popularity, to intersect with, you're on an extraordinarily popular soap opera, and you kind of intersect with a very popular sitcom.
Yeah.
Pretty cool stuff. You got to admit, pretty cool stuff.
I loved it. I had the best time. And Jennifer Aniston was on the day that I was pre-taping for there, and she looked at me and she said, I said, I'm on the show with your dad. And she goes, oh, right. She's so sweet. She's so sweet. They were all good. They were all good to me. I don't know how they are beyond my scope, but they were really good to me.
Cool.
And the other thing I was just going to say about Friends and about Days was full circle moment after we talk about After Forever.
Got it.
That's the
well. We can jump into Forever now. I wanted to talk a little bit about Olympia Dukakis too. You had an opportunity to work with her. Had to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was a moment. It was like, don't blink. But she was lovely, and Della Reese.
Oh my goodness, Della Reese.
And John Stamos was also in this movie, and it was one of these moments. I'm surprised that they kept this joke in. Something about, I'm coming, we're walking, and I pass her, and she goes, that's my hairdresser and his boyfriend. And I say, it looks good, something, and she goes, thank you. And I said, doesn't look good, she doesn't. It was a whole big, like, I don't know why they made that the thing. It didn't have anything to do with the movie. It was just a visual. But she was lovely. To be funny,
right?
Lovely. And I remember, and she would squeeze my butt. That was the other part. So when I went to the Fire and Ice Ball one year, and she was there, and I'm a waiter, a caterer, and I have her table. And I don't know if you remember this, Mr. Kakis, but I think you pinched my ass a couple of times, and I think you fudged up the tape just because you wanted to pinch me one more time. She goes, oh, honey, how are you?
Right away. That's
Yeah. Oh,
good.
yeah. That's all I have on Olympia. That's all I have.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, because you've done a TV and you've done stage, and you've done film, do
Mhm.
you have a preference in terms of genre?
Boy, that changes with the day. It changes with the post outcome of COVID. It definitely is a changed answer as I step into my age, another year around the sun. At 18, I wanted to be a Broadway star. It's all I wanted to do. Yeah, if I get a movie, if I get a TV show, that would be cool. Yeah, but there's nothing like live theater. There's nothing like it,
The energy, right? The energy you get from the audience.
or not get from the audience.
They don't they call that the fourth wall or something like that?
Yeah, well, they're the fourth wall. But for example, when Jackman was doing Boy from Oz and he was talking, hello, I'm Peter Wolno and I'm now Peter Allen. And oh, well, where are you two coming from? A little too much to drink. Oh, they couldn't find parking. And he would do all this back and forth, back and forth. So he would engage them. Now that's a literal engaging of people in the show. But if there's no engagement, you still have the laughs. You still have to hope for the laughs over here. And you turn over here and you're hearing something. Oh, and something drops. Piano leg broke while they were moving Jackman around. He goes, whoa, 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 that was not supposed to happen. And you can't stop it. You just have to keep going. Unlike TV where you can, or podcasts or whatever else. We had some moments watching him. You can get the same feeling with 3-camera. It's as close, and sitcom, it's as close to theater as you will get. Because there's multiple cameras and I don't know, you're playing to that fourth wall a lot.
Sure.
Film is a totally different magical. You have to have your homework down. You have to know where you are in the script. You have to know exactly how you've gotten from point A to point B to point D or Q, because you are out of word this whole time.
Yeah.
And
keeping the track of that, yeah.
Yeah, and you have people doing it for you too. And it's much easier now with the ever so handy cell phone. You know, Kevin, you were right here. Your hand was up. I'm like, oh, okay. I really found it out more than anything. It wasn't such a burden or a challenge actually to do it during Friday the 13th Part 7 or The Hills Have Eyes Part 2 or one of the other slashers. Albino Farm, that's a good one. You know, your lines are here and there and they're intermittent. But when After Forever started and Michael Slade, so do you know the story about meeting Michael Slade?
No, please tell me.
June 1st, 2014. I am in the gym in New York City. I had done a promotion for Wendy Williams because I was going to be on her show as a game show host, not as myself, but as a game show host. And I was going to host a show called Who Knows J-Lo? And J-Lo was the guest.
Nice.
So, and it was, who's going to know more about J-Lo, Wendy or J-Lo? And they were really necking it. That's I get the answer first. And I was just there as a vessel. And the next day when it aired, it's the first time they went into triple syndication in New York City.
Wow.
The taxis had it on. That little clip. Who knows J-Lo? I'm Kevin Spirtas, and we'll be right back. And that was the whole, you know. And I was very much my Alex Trebek, and people stopped me on the streets, and they said, "I saw you and Wendy. You were on Wendy Williams today, more so than when are they bringing Dr. Craig back to Salem? Because you're in the streets there." I would get asked that once a blue. So it's about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'm at the gym, I'm getting off this the treadmill, and I hear, "Are you Kevin Spirtas?" Yes. And I was like, this is happening. well, if you're Kevin Spirtas, I used to write for you on Days of Our Lives. I said, what's your name? Michael Slade. I said, Michael, nice to meet you. I think a lot of times most soaps keep the actors and the writers away from each other so they don't find their storylines growing. And I just charged into a conversation asking Michael, what is he working on? And is he on one of the other soaps? I'm kind of in between right now and I'm enjoying my time off. Famous last words. And I said, okay, well, I want to do a show. We should do a show together. I want to create a new digital something. I know digital's in. Digital's the place to go. And he said, I'm not interested. And I threw it back at him. I said, Michael, it's time we do a story about gay men who are not 30. And he looked at me like I was in his head and he went, call me. He gave me his number. And that was it. That was it. So I didn't know what the show was going to actually be until it became itself. I wanted to do maybe the idea of a dating show once for every episode and have each episode fail as a date. So I'm like, what now? No hope. And I was entering into my 50s and I thought, I know this guy. I've been on these dates. I have been in a world of business is all that people talk about and everything in between underneath is like the heart chakra and it's getting stampled on. So we found a way to kind of weave the story together. And Michael one day said, Kevin, I'm having some trouble. How are we going to make your kind of character sympathetic when you have a great job, when you have that jawbone? I mean, he was like coming at me with, backhanded compliments. He said, no one's going to care about you being alone. And I said, oh, Michael, come on. It just hasn't happened yet. The right guy hasn't happened. I said, what about you? And he said, oh, well, I lost my partner of 2 years my partner of 15 years about 2 years ago. And I was so shocked. I didn't know anything about Michael. I knew nothing about him. And I said, I'm very sorry. And if I may ask you this, do you still talk to him? And he said, again, that look like, are you in my head? And I said, do you? He said, I do. So what would you think about creating a show on 3 different levels? We have the present, and then we had the flashbacks, which would tell about our relationship together. And and then there would be these scenes where I would conjure him up. I'd look at him over here. And no one else would see me looking at him, but I would be involved with listening to the conversation and I'd give him an eye look or something, or I'd walk by him and go, it's your fault. Something that would help me, my character, exorcise the pain, working out the loss, working out the grief. And when Michael and he said, yeah, I wanted to maybe think about something like that. I didn't know it was going to be this project, he said, but I'm ready to give it some art. And he used to joke about changing some of the argument scenes or some of the scenes where he had talked with his partner who was alive at the time years ago for me and Jason to say some of the things that he didn't get to say. So he was really working on some healing, which I thought was beautiful. And then the show just sort of wrote itself. Got an incredible cast,
Oh, yeah, many accolades, coming your way, from that particular project. Yeah. So do you remember like filming that the first day on set, like the vibe?
Yeah. The very first day in 2017 was the second episode of season 1. And it was Riley's scene where he's on a bike and he's trying to take his hands off. Look at me, Brian, no hands. And I'm saying, don't do that. I'll tell your parents. And he's doing it and he's irritating me. And Mitchell, playing Jason, is on a bike without a helmet and I've got my helmet on. And, I'm looking at him like, got that from you, He goes, well, and we just had this conversation like, he's alive. And that was such a beautiful day. And I remember Finn Douglas, who plays this kid, plays Riley. He was the perfect kid to do the show. He loves musical theater. He's an incredibly gifted piano and songwriter and drummer. And he actually went on to write the theme song and sing it and perform it for Riley's Unforgettable School Project, which came in between season 2 and season 3 because we had the pandemic. And we had to send remote cameras out. But anyway, we did season 1. And the reason I wanted to talk about that was just because I had to jump in as take your producer hat off, take your creator hat off, and be an actor.
Mm.
And Michael and I had to really find out a code so we could find our flow and how he would actually come over to me sometimes and go, you know, that thing you just did is great, but maybe underplay it over at the end of that scene. Or he would give me some really great insights. Not that Jennifer Pepperman, our incredible director, she just knew the camera and she knew how to, come on, stay still, Kevin. I hate standing still. I hate it. But you have to do it. And Michael and Jennifer got me that award. So, but in the front row that night in 2019, after we did the series and got it edited, there's Days of Our Lives at the Emmys, there's Bold and Beautiful, there's Y&R, and there's General Hospital. So the 4 dinosaurs are there, and they're in the front row. And I've seen them now several times because I've run up there several times. We won Best Show, we won Best Writing, we won Best Actor, we won Best Supporting Actress. Erin Cherry and Jennifer Pepperman won Best Director. And outstanding director. And I remember Michael on the Sunday night. That was the night we won the major award for the Best Show. So Michael's here. And I see Ken Corte just off of his shoulder. And he's looking at us like, what kind of show did they create? And he's talking to his wife, Sherry. And I could just see him like, what's going on? That night at the party, Ron Calvardi came up and said, congratulations, you guys. I love your show. Best of luck to you. Michael had just turned to get his drink. And I said, Michael, come here. And he said, what? I said, I just heard this voiceless voice, this big, loud, voiceless voice go off in my head. And it said, they're going to bring Craig Wesley's character out of the closet. Mark my words. And that was 2019. So full circle moment. And Michael had said, they will never do that. You were wrong. So I got a call in like August 1st, 2021. Yeah. Filmed about 30 episodes of Craig's character coming out.
Amazing.
Yeah, full circle.
It
was lovely. And what's so incredible about that moment, I'm going back, well, COVID changed up so much stuff, so I had to really count on the blessings and count on the gratitude of being there, because you couldn't rehearse with people, you couldn't go to the set, you couldn't do anything. And staying in your room with those lines and those uncomfortable couches, just in case Days of Our Lives wants to change the couches for anybody coming in. So you fall asleep, you get tired, you're isolated. And I just was so grateful to be there. And every day I would just go, this is the absolute brilliance of what spiritual magic, spiritual awakening. You don't know anything until it happens. We think we know. And I was just like, who knew that I would go off, be successful in a soap opera, go off again, do something else, win all those Emmys, and then it would do this. It was just magic.
What has the fan base been like? Like, what has been the reception to the change, you think, in your character?
Well, I think Ron and the writing team, I think they handled it pretty well. They didn't want to make it, none of us did. A lot of people were very upset because when we first met, when Craig meets Nancy, no, when you all meet Craig and Nancy for the first time, they had, they told us this is a relationship out of love, pure love. You guys have fallen in love with each other. So it doesn't matter what either one of you looks like. It doesn't matter that you gained a few pounds. You're the successful man of a hospital and your wife is a known woman in the community. That's all we knew. When I was back in 1996 filming those, 97 filming those 2 episodes, they had given me kids. And they said, my line was something like, yeah, wait till my wife and the kids get down here. Then we're all going to have a party and celebrate. Well, it wasn't Patricia Darbo at that time. And it was not, the kids were like over in the corner. But it's so interesting that they changed it by the time we got back. They had recast the mother, my wife, and they had not given us kids. And I didn't know what they were going to do. And sure enough, they created the Chloe coming back from a dream and a coma and adoption, and she's my child after all, and oh, it's crazy. But the fans loved it. So that was our basis of having absolute a connection and love from the heart. A lot of people said, how could you do that? We thought you were in love with her for her love, loving her. Now you're just using her. And I said, well, that's not what we talked about, but I can see your concerns. Some people tell you this in the person or they write it. But it's everyone's process of how they're dealing with their coming out. And I think what they did for Craig was gave him the opportunity to say, this is who I am. And it was me all along. I just suppressed it. I wouldn't talk about it. And I was afraid to ever live that life because I didn't like that part of me. That's what Craig says. Not too unparalleled with what maybe something like Kevin Spirtas would say at one point in his life. And they gave Craig, they gave him the opportunity to apologize to Nancy. They gave him the opportunity to love on her. And they gave Chloe and Craig a beautiful connection, which is something that I didn't expect it. And I didn't know that they were going to be so touching. And I have this thing with Nadia, she came onto the show at 17, 18. She didn't drive a car yet. And I was kind of her daddy. She's lost her dad when she was 6. And I just sort of fell into that wonderful little place of anything you need. If you want to talk to an adult, you call me. I can listen. And that started our relationship. So this year, when I went back, it was just great. Daddy.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Now, you're also touring right now. I want to get into 2 more things. I mean, one, you just did a horror film.
Yes.
They want to talk about
Subspecies 5. I think it's Subspecies 5, The Bloodbath. It's coming out in March. It's it'll be on the Charlie Band feature movies, Full Moon. I'll put it on my website, folks, www.kevinspirtas.com, or on Facebook. And I will have the exact address and
cool.
The series address.
Now, horror movies scary to make in real life or no?
They're scary when you get a really bad hotel and you're like, oh, are there snakes or bugs on the ground or, bed bugs? And I had a great time. I'm not scared. I'm not scared of that. You're acting. But there's a beautiful girl named Denise Duffin. Let's see if I can picture this right here. So Denise and I were in in the 2nd and 3rd sequels of the Bloodstone series. And when we finished filming, we were best friends. We were just like, we spent 3 months together one summer, and we were just the best friends of all. And oh, here it is. Here it is. So here I get killed off in the fourth installment of the series of the movies. And Denise goes, "You got to bring Kevin back. If they ever do another one, you got to bring Kevin back." I said, "Denise, I'm on a soap. They're not going to." And Ted Nicolau, the director, goes, "Well, would you do it, Kevin?" I said, "Sure, I'd do it." And I'd have to figure out a way to make you a different character. And that I was a different character. And sure enough, I'm going to find you this lovely little sneak preview. You'll love this beautiful little face on me. Continue talking.
Well, I mean, scary movies are not, horror is not typically my thing. From when I was young, I didn't really enjoy watching horror movies, but I'll put that off to the side because I don't know a person who doesn't love them, right? Other than me.
And if they're done right, if a slasher or horror movie is done correctly, it is one of the greatest successes of all time. You're like, I watched House on Haunted Hill the other night with Vincent Price. Not a lot of death or murder, but it scared the heck out of me.
Well, that was the old thing, right? Arsenic and old lace, like the old, the method is what you don't see is scarier than what you see, right?
Absolutely, like Jaws. Oh, that shark wasn't that big. I thought I had it right here. Here it is. Come on. When you see this makeup on me, you're going to absolutely. You can edit out this little part, but this will really, you'll get a kick. Because I know you're going to watch this movie. If you watch this movie, I will be so surprised. So surprised. So Denise, by the way, I went back, and this year we went to Belgrade, and it was beautiful. And it wasn't frightening to go there because we thought, the war in Russia and, spending time over there. Getting over there was a little crazy, but it was also going to back up against After Forever. And that's why we just had to be really, really careful with timing. And there's got to be a better way to find your pictures on the phone because there's thousands of pictures from the sets.
I think you label them. I think if you label them or something, you're able to do a search, like a Google search for them.
Who's got that time? No, you're absolutely right. Here it is. Here it is. Oh, thank God. This is your little Kevy.
Oh.
So that was fun. That was fun. And I have about.
I love it.
Denise and I. And she looks great. Just as young as ever. And there's a cute picture. I won't look for it now. I'll send it to you and you can. We did a 20 years prior and 30 years prior and 30 years after, and we reenacted the pose on the camera.
If you find, the pictures, if you could actually email them to me, it might be kind of cool to insert them.
Yes, like the name of the actress that we're going to find.
Right.
We're gonna cut that whole segment out. It was fun. I love traveling that way. Do I like traveling intermittently between city to city to get somewhere fast? Traveling's not the same anymore.
No.
No.
I mean, but you're doing some touring as well, are you not? Didn't you have a one-man show with some performing and singing?
I was. What went down was I was on cruise ships making some extra cash as a guest entertainer. I go on for about 6 weeks, and then I go on for about 10 months later. It was a lot of fun. I love the ocean. Then I had this one-man show I did, and just before I went to Vegas to perform in Hairspray, I went to the El Portal Theater in North Hollywood, and I taped my show. I worked on this show called Night and Days about my journey from Broadway and back to television. Every story growing up with my business relating to it as a performer, that was in the show. I did a special parody show for a number for Days of Our Lives, called One Day More, from Les Mis's One Day More.
Yeah.
Funny, funny, funny. And then I started talking about Jackman and how I went back to Broadway to do Point for Mons. And that was set. I did the CD, and I haven't done that show for about 5 years now because there's not been a need for it. Okay, it's okay. My cat, you're okay. There's not a need for it, and people have seen it already. So I started to work on another show. Once in a while, I will go down to the desert. I'll sing a song in a show or a cabaret, you know. Do you ever make it into the city when they do cast party at Birdland?
No. I should say though, I am a big Broadway fan, right?
Yeah.
So I go in and see most of the shows. I'm sorry to say I've not seen you in something on stage. Obviously, I've seen your TV work, but I've never seen you on Broadway, which is something I'd love to do someday.
I would love to have you see me on Broadway somewhere. How about off Broadway? We can do something here. And no, New York does not thrill me like it used to. So it's a love-hate relationship. But I will tell you this: when we finished season 1 of After Forever, Michael and I sat down. We wrote season 1, 2, and 3 together, and the intention was to film them together so we can get them done in the can. And Michael, sadly, just after filming was completed on season 1, was diagnosed with a very rare form of prostate cancer. So I said, let's get writing. And we wrote. And then the pandemic. And then we tried to really quickly write this documentary on the characters of After Forever. And Michael got sick. He just got really, really, really sick. And we lost him at the end of 2020. So season 3 will be complete. Hopefully it'll be out by June. It's the best of all of them because it's about my character going into therapy to deal with the loss of his late husband. Couldn't be more parallel. And
yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little there. He was a great man. He was very talented. He gave me permission to find my voice as a writer. And that was a gift. So I'm grateful. I miss him. I talk to him all the time. Watch the show. You'll see how we talk to people who have passed. And my reasoning for that, by the way, was just because someone dies, the relationship doesn't end. So if it was a bad relationship, it was a good relationship, that gets worked out, hopefully, before someone crosses over. And then you can, oh God, my mom would love these flowers, or my grandfather used to plant trees for us. He'd love, wouldn't you like that, Poppy? It's all that, because we're all interconnected, I still think. And that's how After Forever was born.
It's amazing. I mean, tell people how they can watch the show.
So After Forever, season 1 and 2, and Riley's Unforgettable School Project is streaming on Amazon Prime. It's also on Tubi. It's also on, they just did another one. Anyway, those are the 2 most popular. Season 3 will soon be released, and it will be streaming probably on the same ones, June or July.
Do you think the show will continue anymore?
It's a good question. I don't. Michael and I set out to write this trilogy of healing from the grief, and I think what he was trying to do is also heal his. When it's finished, I don't know if I could go in and write After Forever with another person. I could try it. I'm writing other projects with other people, but what I don't know is if it needs any more. I mean, this story is complete as the arc of the characters and the stories. It's pretty complete. I would like to sell it to a foreign distribution. let Brazil do After Forever the Brazilian way. Let the Italians do After Forever the Italian way. They can buy the show. They can use the exact same words and actions and scenes. I just want it to go out into the world, because right now it's only in the US and it's only in the UK. And I think there are people.
Story. Yeah, it's an important story for sure.
Yeah, it's about loss. Gay thematic love story, but it's about loss. We all will go through it. We all have. And it can kick you down if you're not conscious about it.
Right.
Yeah. And grieving doesn't go away. It alters. It comes in waves. And
certainly has its impact, like you're trying to say, in various ways. It doesn't look the same on everyone, for certain. Even though it takes different forms, it changes you as you move forward. It definitely has its impact on who you are and who you continue to become.
Yes, that's the way I would put it. That was beautifully said. Would you like to be a writer with me? I'm also very, very, very adamant about being careful how we talk, because the words we form, the actions we take, the fantasies and the dreams that we put up here on some level are being created the moment they go into the synapses, so to speak. And those things that we retell over and over and over again become our story. They become our beliefs. And I think we have to be careful what we argue for, because sometimes we argue for a limitation, and that story is no longer good. So I watch a lot of people who have wonky relationships with their partners, business partners, parents, children, anyone. Well, he said, she said, they said. It's none of our business what they said. Just you focus on your best. And that is a hard thing to do.
For certain. That takes practice. That definitely doesn't happen without a sense of self-awareness and analysis that comes before it.
I personally was out here in the early 80s in Los Angeles, and I was turned on to a set of books called The Course in Miracles, and Marianne Williamson would lecture on them. And it's a psychological deconstruction of the ego's ways of creating beliefs and thoughts. And only the love is real, nothing else exists. And a miracle is simply a shift of perception from fear to love. That's the dog ear of it. But and the practices of it and in the meditations of it, I do know at times I walk a little more peaceful. And if I think something, why am I thinking that? Someone must have gotten hurt somewhere in here. Some trauma is sticking to me. Get that trauma off and let it go and start again. We've all got it.
Yeah. Well said. So tell me, what are you working on right now?
I am putting together a show, a musical evening called, its working title is Peter in the Background. And I am stringing, thank you. I am stringing together songs from the Peter Allen catalog that I love to sing, but will tell part of my journey, or the parts that I want to talk about. I feel that they can, because I'm not Peter Allen. I would have played him on stage, but it's been done. But the music, if you're a fan of Peter Allen, or if you know him, it's just angels with dirty faces hanging outside my back door. That's the song I've been listening to lately. There's incredible songs. I'm Not the Boy Next Door. If you were wondering, I could really show you around. I could have been a sailor. Just these great songs, and they're like little monologues. So that's one thing I'm working on. I'd like to get that up and running before I turn 61. which is 20 years from now. My co-star, Mitchell Anderson, wrote a one-man show called You Better Call Your Mother. And he did it in Atlanta. He turned 60 and he said, he was inspired by my cabaret show. And I said, well, write one, do one. He wrote a 2-act play with music. It's hysterical, but it's about his journey. And he was just accepted into the solo performance, Universal something, and it's a festival. And he's going to perform it in New York, and I'm going to go and help make sure the lights are right. And his director can't be there. So I believe in the show. I know a lot of those people he talks about, and you better call your mother. And that's what I'm going to go help him do. And then I'm working on 2 scripts. One's a sci-fi and one is a comedy. One is a Hallmark type comedy.
Well, love story.
Yeah. I want to play love stories now. Come on. I played the twirling mustache
villain.
Too much.
You're the villain.
I was the villain. I was up for Best Villain Award in 1993, 4, I don't know. And we were going to the soap opera awards, and it was over at some pavilion in Hollywood, and Joan Rivers and her daughter are on the carpet, and I went in a black Abe hat, like a Dudley Dastardly do-right, no, Dastardly, and I put a little pinline mustache on, and I had tails, tucks and tails. Oh, that's so horrible. What a joke. It's the soap opera awards. Look at these beautiful people. So the next time I saw her, which was at the People's Choice Awards 4 years later, I said, Joan, you didn't say it to my face. I would have stopped you then. And God rest her soul. But to the guy who used to be the assistant to your plant person in Bel Air 100 years ago, who crawled out and made it to TV and became a household name on Days of Our Lives. Yeah, couldn't like my creativity. She goes, oh, you look fantastic tonight. I didn't know. She was great. But I didn't know.
Well,
and I didn't win.
You remember the first time you did, though? You remember hearing your name? Or was it all just, you black out kind of?
Okay, so I did a web series called, I forgot the name of it. It was my first web series, and I played this like a Winterthorn. Played a fur man in the woods who was plotting against something because of a special potion, and I got a nomination for Best Supporting Actor. I couldn't believe it because I was chewing a lot of scenery, and everyone said, "Don't get your hopes up. Just go along your day." And I started to people would bring it up. I want to talk about it. Do you know, I should have talked about it because I didn't win. And I went, oh, I had informed myself that if I didn't talk about it, I was going to win. And I didn't get the excitement of getting revved up for it every day or anything like that. So when I lost to someone else, I was like, well, I don't get anything now. I don't get the feelings. I don't get anything. So I was like, boo-hoo. When we got the 8 nominations for After Forever for season 1, we got 9 actually. It was outstanding. And I got to call Mitchell and say, you and I are both up for Best Actor. And he went, no, I can't believe it. I left LA and now I'm back. So, and I told him on the phone, if they call your name, you're going up. But if they call my name, you're going up with me. And I dragged him on stage and I said, thank you, Mitchell Anderson, for coming back and out of retirement. It was a magical moment. But when they called my name, did they call my name? They called my name. You got to
right,
that shot.
There's gotta be. I'm thinking there's gotta be that minute. I mean, there's so many different ways to react to something, right? But there has to nobody wants to look foolish, right? You don't want to jump up and be like, oh wait, it wasn't me.
And
right. So
we had a lot of competition. And we had one show called Giants, and it was highly popular, and it was winning all the festivals. And Michael said to me on the way over to the Emmys, he goes, "We just gotta let it go and be grateful that we got nominations." Well, I was not going down kicking. So we got to the Friday night, and the first category was Best Supporting Actress. And they called Erin Cherry's name. And I looked at Michael and I said, "We are going to have a very good night." That was, and I also kind of feel from the belief of, here's an envelope, and you write something on the piece of paper, and you put this in the envelope, and then you seal it. Well, if they didn't put your name on it, it doesn't mean that you can't refocus that molecule, have it write your name. I don't know. I sort of like would visualize my name being written on the card or whatever it was. And I did it not like to pull it to me. I just was like, I wanted it to be seen. I want that show to be out there. I want the heart of it to be expressed and received. And I thought if we get some wins, that could help. So I would get excited about the possibility. And that's what I think is the magic of it. Because I do not remember going up on stage. I remember grabbing Mitchell, come on. And then oh my God, I'm on stage.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know we're out of time, and I kept you over, and I do appreciate you staying with me.
I missed you last week or whatever it was. So I'm glad you were scheduled. Thank you.
So stay on for 1 second, but I'm going to close out the podcast and say thank you. I'll put up a link to Kevin's website where you can find most of the methods to get to his stuff.
Yeah, Facebook and stuff. Yeah.
Right. And he's on Facebook and he's social media and the like, but I'll definitely put the link to his website up. I want to thank Kevin for joining us today.
Thanks.
It's an honor to be able to sit and chat with such a creative person. Say thank you from the podcast.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for listening.
Bye.